we're streaming. We can put up a little bit of light underplay. And I'm Marwin Scorpio. B as in boy. AR, the number 1. SCORPIO. Barwin Scorpio on DeviantArt, Fur Affinity, Twitter, and of course Patreon. Where you can support me and my work. I'm going to be starting up another night. Evenings artwork. Try to get some stuff done. And try. I'm still working on the Kursawa number 8. I've just had a pretty good weekend over at the Motor City Nightmares. I think once I get some people on, we can start talking about that in earnest. It's always fun to chat with people, and we can also get as much of this done tonight before I got to run off to work to Monday night shift as possible. And if we could get this thing out, hopefully by the end of the week. Ready for that. I've got a gallery showing at the Tangent Gallery halfway to Halloween coming up on the 11th. Spring is coming. Spring is sprung. Man is busy. And another World Chanter plays. Try to make sure that everything is going. Yep. We're rolling. And I just dropped my pen. Gotta get a little less picky with this stuff. It's relatively minor details that I'm adding. That's what I was doing. Eraser. I'm using the wrong tool for the eraser. That's what it was. So over the weekend I was over at Motor City Comic Con, Motor City Nightmares, a horror movie convention and film festival. Guests, Sid Haig just wrapped up what I do Rob Zombie, but I was seeing him in person. The poor guy looked like he was out of class. He's an old dude, and he had some heart severe heart problems. Times catching up with his arms look different. The last few years that I had seen Sid Haig at conventions, he was just an absolute, kind of still just a bulky, muscular guy. Not anymore. It's kind of. Sad to see. Meanwhile, Malcolm McDowell is still sprawling his feet before he died with. Let me get on the photo ops with me. I was fighting myself all weekend on whether or not I wanted to get myself in with a photo op with these guys because so many off right now, but I did it. So I literally just bought myself a $60 shirt when I was there. The cool part about Motor City Nightmares and horror movie conventions is it's always like a completely different set of vendors than you find at the comic book convention, the anime conventions, which I love the most they do at the convention. And the accent here was definitely on the list. So what I ended up ordering for myself was, there's this one gal, Terry Riffick, and this nice little lady. She does shirts, like Hawaiian bowling shirts, format shirts, and that's what I ordered for myself. And the fabric is going to be this purple with this light purple with these zombie pinup girls. Very, very rockabilly looking stuff. And hopefully I'll have that in a few weeks, in time for, hopefully she can get this shirt to me that I ordered in time for the convention, what is it, Midwest Haunters Convention, MHC, yeah, Midwest Haunters Con. Who do we got here? Ash, hey.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Not much. I'm just kind of like trying to discuss my weekend, just where it was. Saw like a ton of movies over the weekend. Infinity War not being one of them, oddly enough. That's like the only movie where I was like, these movie theaters are going to be so full, I'm not even going to bother. And instead of, but because it was the Motor City Nightmares, not Midwest Hunters, Motor City Nightmares, I was, I was free to see like a good 4 or 5 feature-length films, including one that was called Charismata, which was like this horror, supernatural tinged police procedural movie. And I kind of liked that one right up until the end, which was kind of a letdown. Literally the last 30 seconds were the letdown part. And I mentioned that to one of the guys who was there was one person from the movie actually in, and this was like the movie's last showing in America, where I've been doing tours of the festival circuit. And I've been playing in New York, and I've been playing in all these other places, and it came off pretty good. It was fairly basic, cut and dry, but the way things played out was very interesting, because you have this one of the detectives working on the case. This female detective is having anxiety problems, and so there's like a breakup in her personal life. There's a breakup, and she's trying to sell her house, and then there's this case, and there's supernatural elements, but she's also on anxiety medication, but she's also drinking while she's on the anxiety medication, which you're not supposed to do. Which, even as a layman, I know, oh shit, this is a bad news. So there's that thing of part of the, is it supernatural or isn't it? Is she having a bad reaction? Is there a real supernatural serial killer on the loose, or is she having like some really bad reactions to her medication and stuff throughout this thing? Is she hallucinating? And there's bizarre things that are happening and stuff with the case, and she's kind of being haunted, and throughout it was really an interesting movie. It was one of the better ones that they were showing there. One of the ones that was just really cheesy, but cheesy in a more fun way than movies that I'd seen there in previous years, was The Return of the Scarecrow. And while this was it was not only relying on horror movie cliches, campers out in the woods and stuff, but it was also, suburbanites, city dwellers or whatever, going out in the woods camping and being attacked by monsters. But it was also kind of relying on the deconstruction of those tropes and everything, the critique of them, but still doing it in a fun enough manner that they managed to pull it off with a lot of nested storytelling throughout the movie itself, which made it a little bit more interesting than it had any right to be, but also funny in the right way.
Funny in the right way. That's a good way to describe it.
There's a lot of ways where people try to be clever with these movies, where it'll just become very boring very quickly because they're not taking themselves seriously. Let's see.
Yeah, it all comes down to good context at the same time as well with that type of humor. The problem is that I feel like with a lot of those type of movies, there's an assumption of the movie-going audience.
Well, yeah, but of course this is like all super independent films as part of a film festival. A lot of them are like made like locally or small or student films and whatnot. So the expectations are quite a bit lower. But even still, okay, I heard good things about Baby Frankenstein. I oddly enough heard some like I came into the tail end of that, and that was somebody was
Baby Frankenstein.
Baby Frankenstein, yes, was one of the movies playing there Friday night, which was described as very heartwarming and whatnot.
Well, I mean, it's a movie about Frankenstein. I imagine there's going to be some type of heartwarming.
It is. It features a dwarf playing Frankenstein, a baby Frankenstein, and making friends with.
Played by a dwarf.
Yeah, played by an adult dwarf, an adult little person, and there's like discovered by some teenagers and stuff. So it's like, and it was filmed in Pennsylvania apparently, and there should be an IMDb for it. I also saw this one. Oh God, it was this sci-fi movie titled Darken. The hashtag is Darken Provides, but it was I noticed in the credits that it was filmed with cooperation from Canada's film board or whatever. So it was like made for sci-fi original level bad though, and or at least because I can't properly assess this because I was running on fumes at that point of the day, and I fell asleep like twice during the movie. I realized I was like I noticed I was nodding in and out in the darkened theater.
Oh, that's the worst.
Yeah, especially since I snore. That must have been awful for other people, but
You just reminded me of a situation that happened with me. I actually fell asleep one time at the movies when a family member of mine wanted to go see the Zodiac Killer, and
God.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep halfway through the film, and then I woke up, and I was just like, "What I miss?"
Well, that's not improved by like I've mentioned in previous podcasts or previous channel talks. Like I mentioned, one of the other shows, the Imagine Theater has these big, roomy chairs that recline all the way back. But not here. It was like just hotel chairs, pretty much the entire thing. But it was neat meeting one of the actors from Charismata, this up north. I can't remember what he was mentioning. Not Liverpool, but it was some guy from like almost around where it was almost a Yorkshire accent, and we were talking about the differences between accents, and it was kind of funny because I mentioned me, him, and this other guy. I think his name was Jordan Peele or something, or Jason D. Peele or something like that. I gotta look up his name because we're chatting, mentioning like Sean Bean and his accent, and he was noticing at this, and he had pointed out in this one TV show they had Sean Bean is part of. It was a modern day setting, and there was an in joke where they had his character have to, as a disguise, put on a scarf for a certain soccer team, and I think it was like Leeds or something like that, who Sean Bean doesn't like because he's like this. He's a United guy.
Okay.
He's Sean Bean, of course, being of Yorkshire. He's big into the football. He's a big time footballer and stuff. And so it was kind of funny because this other guy, this one British guy, you could tell on his face that he's just kind of like disgusted as he puts it on, and it's not exactly acting. It is. You guys making me wear this? I'll get you. I can't remember what the hell he was talking about. The thing was, how you end a question with his regional accent, with his regional style of British English. So it like, oi, you, something, you, would be like a question with you at some point in the beginning and the ending. It's very entertaining. Because
Man, I gotta watch that then. Yeah, I wish there was an opportunity for you and I to sit down and just watch movies together, man.
Well, I do. I don't have a side tube or anything. I do. This is me taking it off an entire weekend to watch movies. And
I know.
Like, and it's the craziest part is it's not like it's like me literally trying to discover new films. Night Hunters was kind of a okay, so it's kind of a detective, but I can't say it's noir because the guy was not. They didn't unfortunately they weren't planning out their shots for noir lighting. Although the plot itself was okay, and I think a lot of Pulp Rev guys might like it on certain levels.
Mm-hmm.
There's this guy who's a psychic, private investigator, and there's kind of a Maltese Falcon-esque MacGuffin that the heroes and the villains all want to get their hands on. And he can fight using magic and whatever. So there's touches of Buffy the Vampire Slayer-ish stuff, and it was always funny because I'll start hashtagging or start mentioning these films, and on my Twitter, and all of a sudden I've got all these different little companies or actors and actresses suddenly liking or following me, and it's like, you're gonna regret. And I'm thinking, as they do this, you're gonna regret that in a day.
Oh, dude, I get that all the time on Twitter. I will make comments on various things, and tons of people start to like me. Like you know that recent controversy with the girl wearing the Chinese dress.
Oh yeah.
I made a comment on there, and I got over 20 likes from different people. And I'm just sitting there like, you guys have no idea who you just liked. If anyone that goes on my Twitter account sees the stuff that I like and the stuff that I post, it's just like, you people are in for a scare.
Oh, on that controversy, I think it's funny. David Hogg. Now we got Jeremy Lamb. It's all these very.
The government of
categories.
fucking China coming out to even say there's nothing racist about it.
Yeah, partly because, you're talking about
the dress itself isn't even Chinese based.
Oh yeah, that was kind of funny. We all got a crash course. We all got fashionista splained, didn't we? About the actual history of that dress and the and the darts that are part of the outfit that gives it that cinched-in waist, which were happening before the 1930s. And then we got that acknowledgement of, every time you try to tell people that they can't wear this or they can't wear that, all you do is fuck with somebody else's textile industry.
Right. And let's be fucking real here. This whole fucking thing is basically just, white person does this, and we gotta fucking hate on them. That's all it fucking comes down to. It's just people looking for an excuse to do that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And it just comes down to, like, let's be honest here, people. This isn't about the Chinese dress. This is about an upper class looking white girl wearing something that's slightly exotic, and you're looking to jump on the fucking bandwagon of hatred to attack this girl. You don't give a fuck about any of the history. You don't give a fuck about any of the culture. You don't give any fuck about the facts. You just want to bandwagon on a fucking hate train and then act like as if you're on the fucking right side of history. Drives me fucking nuts, dude.
Oh, tell me about it. It's so... It was so this shouldn't have been news to begin with.
If it was a black girl wearing a Chinese dress, would anyone have a fucking issue with it? I don't fucking think so.
Honestly, that's a good goddamn question.
Like, if it was a fucking, like, I don't know. I think, honestly, like, the whole thing is fucking stupid. Same fucking thing with, like, everything that's stupid. Just nobody thinks anymore. Critical thinking is a dying thing. Like, I got an argument the other night because I mispronounced Iran. I accidentally said Iran as Iran by accident, and I got fucking chewed out for it.
Oh, you lost the argument now because
you mispronounced a Middle Eastern country.
Except,
it's like, fucking pardon me. Anyone that grew up in the fucking Bush era is gonna develop some bad habit or two.
Well, or that pronouncing it Iran has been that shit's been around since the 80s, or if not before. It's not
right.
It's not even about incorrect. It's regional dialect how it just comes out. Iran or Iran is like because there's a soft I, Iran, and then there's other Iran that sounds like a pronounced E. So yeah, and all this changes depending on not only what region of America or Europe that you're pronouncing this, because of how people naturally pronounce their E's and I's, but I think also there's variations depending on where you come from in Iran.
No, like, listen, like, where I come from, in my social circles of things, the connection with the mispronunciation of Iran comes from your political background. So if you pronounce it as Iran, it's seen as you come from a background of people that are automatically being racist.
Yeah.
That you come from an ignorant background that's viewing Iran because, oh, you're from the conservative part of things, so you're just being a bigot and mispronouncing the country. It's like, no, I'm fucking not. It has nothing to do with that. I don't even have any fucking hatred for Iran. The only fucking hatred I have for it is the religious fanatical group that runs the whole entire country, but that's a different thing entirely. Your whole basis of assumptions comes from your fucking fear that you have with people like me, and that's all it comes down to. And I have to spend the next 30 minutes basically going into a massive defense attack over here. All because I mispronounced a fucking country.
Speaking of politics in your speaking about politics in your area, Seattle.
Yeah, what about my area?
I just linked into Article Archives.
Oh, I have no association with Seattle.
You're from you're from the West Coast, right? You're on the West Coast.
Right. But man, it's polarized as fuck over here.
Seattle, well, it's a major city on the West Coast.
Yeah. On the left coast.
You have to deal with that Portland crowd, that Portlandia crowd. This
Dude.
Is out of Seattle, a state next.
I'm like way beyond like going out. Listen, there's so many people in my city that think the same exact way that I do. It actually kind of shocks a lot of people. It shocks the Californians more than anything because they move up to Portland thinking that this is like a liberal mecca. Then here you have like a crazy, like here's a fun fact. We have five big racial groups here that are massively racist, and 4 out of 5 of them are mostly black nationalist groups or black pride movements.
And Israelites and stuff.
Yeah. We have a big Das Right group over here. It's pretty fucking hilarious.
But I just linked an Article Archives on my Discord if you want to click that, or.
Yeah, let me check out what you got here, fams.
This is news out of Seattle.
Why are so many of you going to see Jordan BP? Oh lordy.
Somebody is a little freaked out in Seattle that tickets to a Jordan Peterson event.
Hold on, Jordan B. Peterson appeals
a
lonely man on the internet.
Seattle.
Oh my fuck, Kelly. Oh, Kelly O. Oh, by Rich Smith. Okay. Jordan B. Peterson appeals to lonely men on the internet who feel alienated by the progress of women and minorities, and he makes plenty of the money doing it. What? That has nothing to fucking do with anything. What? No, I'm alright.
People are freaking out about his popularity, and it's kind of funny because it's like you have people like this guy's had a beef. Peterson back in the day had a brief beef with the MGTOWs, but he's a little bit more compassionate now because he's not just calling them weasels or whatnot, because he's listened to them and their problems, and that's the crazy part is he's a psychiatrist. He's professor.
No, he's a psychiatrist from Toronto, Canada.
But but he's a professor of psychiatry. He's kind of made it his job to study the mind and to listen. So and this is kind of why he makes these inroads with men, because that's kind of his job, to listen, to understand, to kind of like to be able to box these things into ways that hopefully other people can start to understand.
Yeah. Jordan Peterson he's not an individual that's promoting any sort of hatred. He's just acknowledging the reality of the situation that's going on here and just trying to give light to the situation here.
And giving a lot of people a crash course on the tropes of the Jungian archetypes.
Yeah, because you have to remember there's a massive destruction of knowledge and history going on right now that's leaving millions and millions of men without proper lessons and teachings to function. And you have to be careful with that, because the problem with telling men that they're the fault of everything, but then not giving them the tools and guidance to be able to live their life and to be able to be men in their own regards is dangerous. Because then you're going to have a society of men that are being ran by people that are telling them that everything is their fault, but then it's the same on the same exact breath. Everything's your fault, but you need to be the one to fix it. And it's completely unfair to a lot of guys like that.
And you'll attain no power and no credit for anything you fix too, which is an annoying
Right.
aspect of it.
Which is stupid, because anything in a part of history, it's, you know, whatever modernists are trying to say here, you got to remember this, like, history and facts are always going to win no matter how much you feel. Because the reason why there's been roles and the reason why there's been cultures and everything like that is because history has proven these methods to be the tried and true method of how people function, of how humans have evolved. You can't just go and destroy that overnight and then expect everything to just be okay just because you spent most of your life in an intellectual window box thinking that you know more about the world because all you've ever had is your little safe space of life and everything.
And, God, just from the article, University of Toronto professor has made a name for himself by posting lectures and self-help videos to YouTube with titles like Identity Politics and the Marxist Lie of White Privilege and Slaying the Dragon Within Us. He currently boasts over 1 million subscribers. This is legit. And they go onto his Patreon. How much is he earning on Patreon? Ooh.
Yeah,
it's about the money.
It's the reflection.
And the funniest part about this is when people get offended about people try to post like how much money somebody is making, as if you're supposed to be offended that a private citizen makes.
All right, let's look at the facts here. If you look into the facts of what group of political ideology makes more money, generally the Democratic Party and a lot of people on the left make a lot more money than most people on the right. A lot of people on the left and everything like that have shown to have much more money in their pockets due to the cities and areas that they live in, and exploiting that to fit their own benefits and their own social programming, compared to most politics and most people that you have on the right that earn much more or less money compared to that. Mm-hmm. And to say otherwise, like, oh, Jordan Peterson makes all this money, well, right. Things these days require large sums of money because politicians and everything like you that make the criticisms of how much things cost, you're the big reason why things cost so much money, because you created a system that requires a lot of money in order for voices to be heard. So don't do this whole deflection policy of, oh, Jordan Peterson's making all this money so he's a bad person, when you were the ones that actively tried to create that society to begin with. That now we have to put down so much money to be able to be heard, because that's what's happened.
Which ties into the faux outrage over lobbyists. These powerful NRA lobbyists, most powerful, blah 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 blah, and it's really about the elites being pissed off that working class people have enough money to pool that they can hire people to just go in there and beat and bang the drum on the streets for them.
Right. Well, Bar, you have to remember here, dude. These are people for the longest time have been absolutely shitting on the blue-collar working class for so many fucking years in their cities and everything like that, taking them for granted, just absolutely using media and everything like that to ostracize them. And now it's finally sorry.
You got a weird way to ostracize them.
No, I know.
They're turning those poor coal miners into ostriches.
And yeah, Iran, whatever, man, whatever. I know where I come from for it. It's just long ass day for me. But point being, going back on topic here.
Yeah.
You know, you can only shit on a population of people for so long until they have quiet vengeance against you, and then don't act shocked when you're no longer viable anymore. You know, this is why I've always been the proponent that you should never go and be angry and mean against any sort of group of demographic of people or anything like that, unless they're actively being, you know, belligerent in society. Because for the most part and everything like that, you need to have people working together. If you don't have people working together, you're just gonna have polarizing ideology happening, and it's going to create conflict and lack of civil unity. So that's why I'm not really surprised that this is happening, because the left for so long have just been completely shitting on so many fucking people and burning so many fucking bridges, and now they're acting all shocked, like, oh, why aren't people taking it seriously anymore? Well, because your ideology means jack shit for the average fucking American anymore.
Well,
what's the point in having?
It's not just that. It's they're doing that and not delivering. So this is why they're freaking out that now that Chance the Rapper and Kanye are kind of like walking off, you know, as it's referred to as the Democrat plantation or whatever, because, and just to, and you know, don't get me wrong, GOP establishment. This doesn't mean that they're gonna walk, that the black community is gonna walk over to your side of the aisle by and large. That means, and then I posted this on Facebook today because people are thinking, oh, they're, you know, the inner city is gonna swing Republican now. No, they're just, no. What's happening is the Democrats saw this coming down the pipe too. The Democrats saw this coming down down the turnpike towards them. And that's why you have them declaring sanctuary cities. This is why you have them declaring, you know, opening the, you know, we got to open the gates for this mass migration invasion from Honduras and where the hell else ever. This caravan that's coming towards America, you know, on the Californian, the Tijuana coast. This is why, because this is. Well, if the blacks aren't going to vote for us, we'll just displace them in the inner city. We'll just edge them out, block by block, generation by generation, street by street. And you know what? A lot of these, because they're illegal immigrants, but you know, we're going to still find ways to get them into the voting booths and, you know, pad. We can at least count them. And that's the thing, is even if they can, all they can do is count all these illegals as population, then they get, for those cities in those city areas, extra representatives. That's how they garner representatives for the state, for their party. And the thing is because these people aren't gonna these foreign nationals are gonna be less likely, because they're illegal, to call the police. So how do they do this? Oh, they don't call the police, they call their cousin. Then now you have gang warfare. Now you got all the gangs making inroads in the inner city, you know, and you're gonna have these Hispanic gangs, these Latino gangs, versus the established black gangs, and it's going to be blood in the streets. When it already is, when it isn't already, it's going to be even more so. Where it is already, it's going to be even more so. Where it isn't already, it's going to start up, and it's going to get ugly as this goes on. But it's going to be one of those things that, unless you're following actual inner city cops reporting on this stuff, or if you're paying attention, unless you're really dedicatedly paying attention, you're never going to hear about it.
It's already happening in a lot of my city. You know, you bring that up and everything. I've been telling people that crime in my city is still fairly high. We have numerous car break-ins and everything like that going on, and it's just not reported in the media, because right now there's a redefining of crime that's being reported and written up, so that way it's perceived that the city is a lot more safe than it is, and that's happening in a lot of urban cities right now, and it's frustrating.
Oh yeah, it's the CompStat.
No, right, and it makes no sense, because, you know, if you're anti-cop, but at the same exact time you want cops to protect you in your way of life, then don't act shocked and surprised when your city turns into a police state.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, everything is just you can't do anything because everything is now suddenly offensible, and you're going to be put in the back of a cruiser for idiotic minor crimes.
Because
And
and
it's
it's not
just
because they want you doing the time; it's because they want you paying the fine. Because you wanted all these extra cops, you wanted the illusion, the feeling of safety, as opposed
Right.
to as opposed to any semblance. Instead of exercising self-control, because you can't do this, you're going to turn this place into a police state, and then complain when you have to. At some point, you have to pay for that police state. You have to fund it somehow, and that's usually going to be a crapload of petty fines being issued all over the place.
No, you're absolutely right, Bar. You're absolutely right. And it's just people need a reality check, and there's nothing wrong with a reality check because in a lot of ways, there's much more of a benefit to living in the reality of what's happening compared to just acting like as if everything's up fine and good. That's for sure.
Let's see what else was I back to this article. The summer of the tour, Peterson's touring.
I just dismiss it, man. It's not even worth the read. It's just some stupid author who's just trying. It's not even author. It's a journo. It's a total journo.
Really started getting bitchy about him. Anyway, oh wow, the paragraph actually begins with an anyway and an exclamation point. Anyway, look, I can just hear Big Red saying that. Peterson is basically a weird academic troll and a men's rights activist. How very dare he! And yet, he sold out the Moore Theater on May 10th right here in the socialist hellhole, quote-unquote, of Seattle. That's highlighting Fox Business show slams Seattle as socialist hellhole. Okay, that's what the link
On that
to.
fucking note, could we just end ironic humor?
Oh, God.
Can we just fucking end it? Because it's so fucking dead.
How very dare he be able to fill out a theater because people, at the very least, whether they agree with him or not,
dare
Peterson live.
How dare people promote freedom of speech that doesn't apply to our politics? That in a free society, people should have the option to go where they want to go.
In fact, he sold it out so hard that he's coming back to Seattle in June. That performance is not yet sold out. What new paragraph? What are you people doing? Have you seen this guy's videos? Have you heard this guy speak?
Have you heard from our intellect?
There's no way to read that without
I can't.
Bitchy. Maybe there's some. What are you guys doing? Add some vocal fry. What are you guys
Wait. Peterson says he regrets there isn't a socially acceptable context in which he can hit a woman who is unfairly trespassing again. Where the fuck does he... He mentioned a woman who compared him in his ilk to Nazis. I'm defenseless against that kind of female insanity because the two techniques... Wait a minute, hold on, let me read this again. I'm defenseless against that kind of female insanity because the techniques I would use against the man who was deploying those tactics are forbidden to me, he says. Wait a minute, so this journalist is trying to say what Peterson said is wrong, but this journalist doesn't realize that by admitting what he's saying, he's also revealing that there is a society that's clearly biased towards the automatic defense of women that this journalist has basically said and admitted that yes, there is a society that we have where women are able to do what they want to do without being worried about consequence, but because Jordan Peterson said it, it's now a wrong thing.
Unfairly trespassing against him is a quote, but here's the thing, that is basically what he's saying is assault. A woman can hit you in public, and people point out, they've done these studies, they've done these as prank show things, where you can show somebody, a woman just start flipping out in a conversation with a guy, they're both actors, and she starts hitting him, people walking by just kind of look and smile, and meanwhile, and he's addressing this, that you have one sex that is completely free to, in the mind of people, engage in violence.
Alright, is there comments? Oh, there's a comment section.
And it's hilarious that they're taking like, this is so beyond the pale to say this. And no, this is completely reasonable. And we're seeing this now in cop footage where women are just like, women think it's their liberty to destroy property.
Well, it's exploitation. They know that they're going to be able to get away with it, and they know that they're able to do this, and that's not equality. You know, anyone that's listening to this video, it's not equality to have a society like that. That's clear. That's clear counterplay there.
Well, that's what's so funny.
Wait.
But I'm gonna say
Wait. Oh my fucking word! I'm reading the last part.
As he told Tucker Carlson, "Ooh, they really don't like Tucker Carlson."
No, not Tucker Carlson. Anything like that.
Oh, can't cook the tuck, man. That's what
Jesus
really
fucking Christ! This article is. I'm still fucking reading this article. I don't know. I really should stop. In all honesty, this is just this isn't worth my time.
It's worth our time, man. If I'm chatting on it, we've
all right. So,
I mean, look, we're at the 8:46 mark, and we've been just actually solidly talking about semi-new stuff. I mean, I was just going to talk about my convention weekend, but here we have this great little stupid, insane stuff. A couple of insane things to talk about in the news. And
all right, I'll embrace it.
But let's see. Just the answer to feeling alienated from contemporary conversations about patriarchy or white privilege isn't to dismiss those ideas because some professor gave you permission to. No, you've got to embrace the cognitive dissonance and oh my god.
Wait, what part are you on? Hold on.
The second to last paragraph. But rather to read as much as you can about those ideas and stem them out. Read Audre Lorde, read Kimberly Crenshaw, read Judith Butler, parentheses, slowly. Oh my god. So it's like, yeah, you have to read the propaganda, the unprovable, unverifiable, we did not know science directed to any of this woke conspiracy theory of... You can either view this as all part of like a bizarre, healthy aspects of all aspects of a sexually dimorphic species that need healthy channeling, or you can read these feminists and learn that it's a giant conspiracy theory. Who sounds more sane immediately at the end of the fucking day? It's all just a conspiracy. It's men just make these secret patriarchy meetings where they find new ways to impress us, like telling us what dresses we can't wear.
How fucking delusional are these people, Bar? How fucking delusional are these people? This isn't reality here.
It's a left-wing Seattle clickbait rag, so called the Stranger.com. So pretty delusional.
Don't listen to that clickbait propaganda. Listen to our approved equality, freedom of speech propaganda.
Virginia Woolf. This is the same fucking Virginia Woolf who was actually doing the down angle shot when she went on to debate or have a conversation with Steven Crowder. It was hilarious because she's holding her cell phone up at that 3/4 angle the entire time. Like I just had to do this. She's giving her fucking attempt to actually get Steven.
Is she having a conversation about feminism and everything while doing high angle shots?
Virginia Woolf was having a conversation with Steven Crowder, and she hilariously did the entire thing doing that what used to be called the fat girl angle shot, basically trying to put her thin out her face and put her cleavage on display while she's talking to Steven Crowder about feminism and stuff. And it was bloody fucking hilarious. Because it was such an to anyone slightly red-pilled, it was such an obvious and egregious attempt to get to make herself appear more feminine and diminutive and slut herself up a little to try and get as much so she could open up the door and get away with as much as he could. But Crowder wasn't having any of it.
Oh, no redeeming qualities. Okay, no redeeming qualities.
Hilarious.
Read Hannah Arendt. Read Gloria Enzador.
YouTube philosopher or Twitter activist completely define your think. Don't let some YouTube philosopher or Twitter activist or clinical psychiatrist and professor or college professor. It's funny that this author immediately tries to says like there's this academic. The college academic has all the credibility in the world until the moment one of them disagrees with us. Then, they're just a YouTuber. Jordan Peterson is just a YouTuber, as opposed to a guy who's had a decades-long career as a Jungian psychiatrist in discussing,
Hold up.
Pre-memes. Bucko. Buckaroo. Saddle up, Buckaroo. We're all gonna live like lobsters. 122 comments. I'm guessing this is probably just a shit show. Rich Smith trying to do the backhanded insults the entire article. Don't go to this guy. Which is funny because if Rich Smith was going to be hosting a fucking a talk at the Moore, he'd be hoping he's sold out.
I'd do some business stuff.
Yeah, if Rich Moore was going, the article writer, if he was going to fucking be hosting a talk or something at that same theater, he'd be praying to God that and doing everything he could to including a bunch of YouTube videos to shill and get people to show up for him. And that's the one thing that I think is really funny, hilarious at the end of it. But it was kind of neat. One of the things, back to pleasanter topics. Motor City Nightmares. This one, you could, speaking of nightmares spelled with a K. A Batman fan film was a 30-minute Batman fan film. I saw the first. That was like the first installment done. It was like a half-hour thing. And that's the crazy part, is even the fan films are very well done stuff a lot of the time nowadays, which is bizarre because like this Nightmare was a Batman fan film, but we're never gonna see this. They don't have viewing rooms for this kind of shit at comic book conventions. This is why I do. People wonder why I do horror movie conventions, because and sci-fi conventions rarely have a viewing room for fan films or for indie product and stuff, and it's kind of bizarre that we don't. It was kind of funny because the guy's mom, the creator is out in California right now, and so is the guy's mom that was kind of in town from, I think, where are they from? Royal Oak, and she was there to promote her, to be there for the viewing, listen to some comments and whatnot, and I was very impressed. They had a really good actor for they had a bunch of the Batman villains showing up and Batman's fighting. There was a cool fight between a black guy playing Harvey Dent, which is kind of funny because it's alright, because that is like in the original, a black Harvey Dent, like the original Batman movie from the 1991, where it was going to be Billy D. Williams, but we never got as Two-Face. But it was a really good Joker, and it was a really good Jason Todd, and a really good, just also a very good script too.
I mean, it sounds like a good script, honestly. And I mean, so long as the actors that they have are pretty good for the roles, that's cool with me.
Yeah, it was well written, and so many of these film shorts and films, it is very hit and miss. Wicked Tober was like another one that I watched, and that was very, it was like a 4-part anthology with interstitials in between, and it was really hard to tell who the hell the audience was for on each segment. And two of the later segments were really bad, I thought, but two of the earlier segments were pretty good. Um, the short films, and so was the actual interstitial, where it's this girl witch summoning up a familiar, and it's a sarcastic raven, even though she'd rather have a kitty instead of a bird. The only problem that I had was the Raven had a funny enough line. The Raven character had enough funny lines, but his audio was way too up high, so he was very shouty, and that detracted. But that's the thing, is like a lot of these are very amateur works. A lot of these, somebody filming in their home and in backyards for a lot of these shorts. But it's always interesting to see these efforts.
I see them.
A more accomplished one at 7 minutes run time was The Fear Below, or the Fear Within. I grabbed the poster for this damn thing. There was a poster up there. I grabbed it because that was a goddamn good of a film. And this thing was done in black and white. It had the feel of a classic Twilight Zone episode. And the acting was on point, so was the scripting. It was usually when I see something in black and white, I'm actually feeling a little bit of dread, because way too often people are trying to be hammy and, I'm gonna make like a parody of all those cult movies from yesteryear, and for that they view that as, so we've got to have deliberately bad or flat acting and hammy dialogue.
So they're self-evident that they're bad, and they try to roll with it, but it fails on them.
Yeah, or they try to make it bad on purpose as a stylistic choice.
No, you gotta be careful with that one, though.
Yeah, not realizing what made those projects work was, whether they were good or bad, they were originally done with earnest intent.
And so the thing with a lot of these bad films is just, you kind of have to have a good balance of it. A lot of them don't seem to have that. Of both just good acting, but also creativity within the realm of amateur. Yeah, it's difficult, Bar. It's difficult.
Yeah, one of them was, I was watching, another couple of movies. Witchtown was starting off with a kind of that was that deliberately hammy or bad acting. And kind of the script was too. One of the first things that they were doing wrong with Witchtown was having a narrator, but he's like talking to the camera, as opposed to going into ADR to do the noir. That was another problem with Night Hunters, was whereas they were doing a bit better with the plot, it was just kind of a boring and anticlimactic ending for this kind of supernatural Maltese Falcon or whatever kind of story. The main problem they had was they did not have the control of lighting that they really needed to pull off the themes of the film in an interesting way. Because it was, you gotta have that. You have to have that noir lighting if you're gonna try and do a noir story. You've got to be able to control that, dim it down, create those angular shadows and whatnot. And they didn't manage to do that, so it did kind of hurt. Part of it was also, I think, I just swear to God, the Theater Room 1's projector must have been off and just displaying everything as washed out or too bright. And I think it was just the theater. I just think they didn't adjust the projector. Maybe was the problem. But then I went and watched The Legend of Dog Lady Island, and it was a story that started off cliche enough, and it's kind of funny, the limitations of the that classic, young people going off in the woods for nookie and getting attacked by monsters or whatever, whether or not they escape or get killed, and there's and the investigation or whatever. Which, yeah, the couple that are making it out of the woods make it off, but without getting injured. So now there's an investigation to what's going on, and these cops are going to ask somebody who's a historian on this island. But the thing is then we start getting these flashback after flashback of different history time period on this island. And
okay.
They're very cliche and blandly scripted and poorly acted, and
like, what eras did it go to?
Of course, you have one with the French massacring the Indian tribe of 5 people and 5 people. So it's like very limited budget and very phony French accents. And off this, and your Native Americans are like wearing oh God, it is Spirit Halloween costuming. So even as your
what is it? Just like
tale is because of budget constraints, horrifyingly, hilariously inauthentic. Oh God.
So what? Did they just like go to a catalog and just got a bunch of sexy Pocahontas costumes and called it a day for outfits?
Just almost. It was almost on that level. It was, and that was like the first really ineptly done flashback tale of terror or whatever on this to set the mood of this Dog Lady Island kind of thing. Then it was, but of course this was like it wanted like an award for a first-time director, so it's like a feature length. Even though it's like only feature length because it's horrendously padded. This is why whenever I'm talking to actual filmmakers at these things, whenever I'm chatting with them, I'm like, fuck feature length. If you're not going to be, if you know from the get-go you're not going to be distributed in theater, but if, you can sell this shit as a short story though, still. Short film. But it's better to have a really intense short film that hits all the notes in a quick succession and ramps up the tension that you need. Something like, even if it was just a woman in a haunted room for 10 minutes, The Corpse Pose was a good short. This shit, you need pacing, and that's what a lot of the amateur first-time directors don't have the budget, the writing, the character development to carry out the feature length. And what they could have had as an intense 30 or 45 minute short film, a long form short or something, and it would have been on point every single. Instead gets dragged out into 90 minutes because they think they need that when they honestly don't, and it's working against them because now you got just minutes of just. That's what drove me out of Bailiwick. Because in the first minute of this film Bailiwick is just the guy getting up in the morning and making breakfast, and even there's a shot of the guy that's going to be your protagonist spreading butter on toast. It's like, holy shit, man, nothing is going to happen. This is like this is what drives me out of a room at a film festival. It's not like I'm going to ask for my money back because I got this one big package and there's a second theater room theater showing other movies, but by God, man, you lose me immediately. The more, and that's the thing is like you have these guys that are trying to just catch shots in the very amateurish fashion. They're just trying to have footage of something that they can then work that they're hoping somebody will find it symbolic or meaningful.
Well, symbolic and meaningful is definitely subjective.
And,
that's for sure.
Oh God, that was
Kind of
also funny because like one of the first things that the first flashback when there was two flashbacks at the Legend Dog Lady Island. The first of which was the first flashback was the French and Indians, and then the second one was the gangster era, and I just kind of like left after that one because even though the French, there's the persecution of the Native American, blah, 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 blah.
I'm just imagining in my head.
But it ends up with this one-on-one showdown between the French commander and the leader of the French guy, evil Frenchy guys, and this Indian chief who's now got wolf spirit power or whatever. But it's a bad fight scene. It's a really badly choreographed one sloppy swinging at each other fight scene. So it's like it doesn't build up to anything remotely satisfying. And then they go into another flashback and I was like, oh, I'm hitting the eject button on this one. Get me out of here. The camera work is often flat and uninteresting.
So that's just he also wanted to make the film into a period film at the same time.
Yeah. Biomass. Biomass was a good short. This one short film called Biomass. I don't want to talk too much about it, only because it's like it's a 3-minute film, and it was just like.
So is Biomass a bio-ass film?
No. It's a very good, and that's like the proof of like it's short subjects. Horror does short subjects a lot better because you can get to that twist ending or whatever, that grisly image quicker, and that's all you need to just like, ooh, that's spooky, weird and stuff. It's back when I was talking about spooky and weird. There was Spooksbury was one of the first shorts I watched, and that was a parody of a like Sir Ghastly Graves, horror host, late night movie, and it was kind of funny. It was kind of funny. It was dragged on a bit too long, I thought. Even though it was based on cringe comedy of the awkward, really pause, oh gosh, there's these long embarrassing pauses of this guy who doesn't know what he's doing is trying to be a horror host, and
is all right,
failing at various degrees of misery of it, and that's kind of where the humor comes from. Unfortunately, they don't really have that much. Unfortunately, it's still dragged on just a little bit too much with his shots. But even so, a lot of their shots are funny, as he's like, there's like only 4 people in the movie: a tech guy, a camera guy, this female PA director or whatever, producer, director or whatever, and then this camera guy. And at one point, the wannabe horror host with the really bad makeup is talking about, well, now is the time of the show where we get to viewer mail. But it's our first episode, so we don't have any viewer mail. So instead, I'm going to write a letter. And he goes off in the background. He picks up a foam tombstone, and then cut back to the camera guy's reaction to this guy, to the host. They cut back to the host, and he's like writing with a big feather quill. I really like the show. He's writing to the studio. and then please keep it as a regular part of your late night programming. I love it so much. If you don't, I will kill myself and my body will be on your hands. And then he signs the name, and he says the name, and it's the name of the camera guy. He's like, wait, that's me. What the hell are you doing? So it was like, it was so bizarrely weird.
That would just have made me felt uncomfortable if I was there, man.
Oh, well, yeah, it's the awkward, it's the cringe comedy, but it's being done deliberately, and it was being done well. Which is kind of what made it work. But it was just a little too long at times, even for me. And Madonna University was there with their table. They're working on a movie called Soulless now for the next film student project. Creatures of Whitechapel was really bad. It was a steampunk retelling of Frankenstein, and God, yeah, just steampunkers are just steampunk is just the worst subgenre right now. I swear.
Well,
to
it's
God,
just steampunk is like your introductory level of sci-fi. It's like when people are like, "All right, I've seen Star Trek and I've seen Star Wars. I've seen all the mainstream sci-fi. I want to go deeper in the genres." And then you see something like steampunk, and it's just like, oh, it's. I don't think it was the gatekeeper sci-fi culture.
I wouldn't even do that because it's not even like a deeper or it's actually steampunk is actually a hell of a lot shallower because so much of it is wrapped up in the only successful and long-term steampunk projects are either bands or fashion. Is fashion designers and creators. You really don't have that. There's not a lot of breakout IPs.
Well, no, the problem with the fashion part is that it's not even close. It's at this point like 90% of the fandom there is just clockmakers.
Yeah, or people just bitching at each other and backstabbing each other, which is why you can't keep a steampunk. It's so well, it's fashion, like I said, and it's music, so it's a ton of really catty people, all looking to backstab each other.
Yeah, that's
over their little fiefdom of cliquish, over their own little clique. Like, it's cosplay thoughts all the way down, unfortunately, and that's kind of why we can't. That's why you don't have like really big, influential steampunk book series or TV series. Well, of course you're not going to get TV series because they need to option something.
Right.
The Party's Over was a very by the numbers cliche girl getting chased through a house, Hollywood Night by a Killer or whatever, but it was but the camera work was on point. The girl was the acting was believable, and hats off to the girl, victim and her friends and stuff. But also the camera work. The camera work is on point. Nice roving shots throughout. Good lighting attention. I noticed a lot of pink and blue lighting. I really noticed a lot of pink and fucking blue lighting at this in the movies here.
So it's like you think with horror films, there's a possibility of more, like there's something new that could happen, or is it just doomed for cliches for the rest of the days?
Well, it's tropes and cliches often. Well, cliches or the tropes themselves are fun things that you can play with. The hell, I have 3 new followers. I'm scrolling through the Twitter to see what I will, because I when I was in the theaters, I would always post like what I'm watching and like a comment or two about it. That's where I'm getting all these new followers, because I keep on mentioning all these different things that I was seeing. enough of the stream and the music was playing. It's appropriate.
Anybody hanging out? By the way, whatever happened to Kim?
I'm not sure. He had to go out for eats. Oh god, yeah, Photo Kill. Photo Kill was hilarious. And I'll probably link the trailer. The trailer to Photo Kill is on YouTube, and it is about a guy who steals. This guy is out in the woods taking photos of the birds and stuff to get wildlife photos, and he is mugged. Chases the mugger. The mugger gets away with his camera. The mugger goes back to his girlfriend's house, and the guy is clearly a loser, crashing on the couch, drinking her beer, beta male. And this is kind of a hilarious part because this thing is this movie is accidentally rental as fuck because this guy's a loser, and the guy whose camera he stole. Hey, babe, I got you this camera, though. You know, the guy has photos of himself killing somebody. It turns out that the photographer whose camera he stole is a serial killer, and the guy and the mugger dropped his cell phone, so now the killer knows where they live.
Oh jeez.
And the guy, and of course the guy stole the camera because for his girlfriend, whatever, so she quit whining about him because she's a photographer too. It's a thing. She's about to have her first gallery showing or whatever. And by the end you're realizing this guy, the hypergamy is real, my friend. This guy just got cucked by a serial killer. It's in only a few minutes. It's very effective and it's very grim and funny, but also just the.
A lot of these films, man, I have to go see. I'm sure that they're really entertaining. It's just, man, I really gotta go see these films.
And the thing is, like, so many of these are also like on YouTube, or many of these are on YouTube. Many of these are elsewhere, available elsewhere. But a lot of them are short films, and that's the thing is, some of them you can find here because they officially post here, or at least the very trailers, and you're looking at something that is often some are pretty well done. And the thing is, the shorts, I like to hit those shorts blocks at this convention because the shorts tend to be better than the long forms, just because they get to the point and they don't wear out their welcome. They're not overly, like Darken was just overly long, unfortunately. And between that and me being just hella tired, that's why I was falling asleep during that film. Talios was a full-length feature film that didn't, however. And this is available on YouTube you can purchase it on YouTube. And it's like $2.99 or something, kind of the price of a movie rental, or you can just see the trailer. It is a near future. They are, it's slow-moving spaceships inside the solar system as a human crew, there's a genetically engineered advanced form of human crew that are off to salvage the cargo of a spaceship that got lost out there a few years back, and it's like several years travel time between planet, blah blah blah. Communications is faster, and the thing is as they get there, there's only one survivor and an android left on the crew of this ship. There's a mystery, and these advanced supermen kind of alien, these genetically engineered advanced humans are also having problems though. Like one guy who's the medicine specialist on their team is having memory lapses all the time, which is supposed to be impossible for these people. Another girl is getting hyper emotional. Um, and another one is having physical tremors in her arm and stuff, and there's like this slowly ramping paranoia on this ship with this guy with his old style, original, kind of style human who is not talking, and a black box that's been destroyed, and memory core that's been wiped, and a android who's had her memory wiped. So they're trying to figure out what the hell happened on this ship. Why is the rest of the crew dead, except for this one mechanic?
What happened to the mechanic?
You gotta watch the movie to find out. But it ties into like the secret cargo that they were.
Yeah, if you can link some of these films in the Flicks section of Discord, that'd be nice.
Okay.
I'm at the office now, so I probably can't watch them until I get back home.
Well, the Telios trailer. Oh shoot! Wait, did somebody put up the whole movie? Well, hell. Yes.
Oh, did they?
Yep. The full film is available. Somebody put it up. Brandy Pro's channel. I'm gonna share this around then, because I thought this was an interesting in the Gorilla Channel chat. I want to share this around because I thought it was a really interesting little film. At an hour and 27 minutes. Telios Beyond the Trek in subtitle. And yeah, because that was a pretty nifty flick, I thought. Very nifty. Fear Within was the name of the movie. I managed to grab a poster of that. I managed to grab a poster for Return of the Scarecrow, and that was just fun. I got my photo taken with a guy in the Scarecrow costume they made for the movie, and I got a poster. Grabbed one of the posters off the wall because these people come in and they'll tack up posters. They'll drop off club flyer cards. I grabbed at least a club flyer to Night Hunters, which is unfortunately better colored and better lit than the actual, just because of Photoshop After Effects, than the actual movie. Let's see, mentioning Corpse Pose. This was about a girl who was moving into a new place, always moving into a new place. Always these changes that bring about horror, stereotypically. And doing some late night yoga to try and, meditate and collect yourself, and then as a haunting in this new place that is a haunting from her past kind of breaks into her life.
Oh, for a second I thought you said you did. Yeah, I thought there for a second you did yoga.
Oh no, that was. I've done yoga before. It's part of stretching. When I was doing back when I was doing capoeira and stuff.
Huh.
Sound from the Deep hashtags the sound from the deep. I know they have. The Sound from the Deep at least has a trailer, and I only caught the last few minutes of this thing though. The Arctic ice melts, vast untouched areas are opening for exploration. Seismic ship Havgufa, and this is the thing. It was filmed. They used an actual seaboard vessel. I think it was only a half-hour film. short film short, but they actually used a real ship at some points. And I'm not sure if they were out of the water or not, but they managed to get some really nice filming, and even kind of contains, if you're a Lovecraft fan, it contains a Shoggoth at the end. Really well done, creepy, weird effect stuff. The seismic ship Hafguva is sent to the search the Arctic seafloor for oil and natural gas. And if you know,
Sometimes when I
and if you know your classic Lovecraft, Mountains of Madness,
look north,
you know where this is going.
I feel like I'm in church.
Like you're facing something greater than yourself.
Ah, right. That's definitely going to be a
Like we
predictable
shouldn't be
close
here.
bit right there. But it's fun. It's fun predictability.
Well, I wouldn't even say it's fun predictability. It's if you recognize the parts of the Lego set. The interesting part is watching, because depending on the skill of the builder, the master builder, you're gonna get a different result from that kit every time, and that's why. And of course, tropes are the universal story building elements. Hey, but tying back to Jordan Peterson, Jungian tropes, Jungian archetypes are part of tropes. And they're tropes exist because these are the repetitions that keep on happening. To be an honest to God trope, it's things that have to happen in real life, even if in the story it is made far more dramatic of an occurrence.
Right.
Honestly, we've all had our cell phones go lose signal, but nowadays everybody's phone lose signal, and it's something supernatural is happening. We've all had that brief paranoia of being alone in a house late at night, because
the
we're
real
social
paranoia,
animals. And that's why those stories happen, and that's why those stories work.
Well, it's creating relatable content to have a sense of connection with the audience, that the audience can connect with the story in an easier format.
Yep. But yeah,
like, oh, they lost their signal. I remember that one time I was going through the mountains and I lost my signal too.
Yep. And it would suck if you lost your signal while there was a supernatural killer monster coming after you. A serial killer, a slasher, or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean,
let's see.
Losing a signal would definitely make a killer want to kill you. That's for sure.
Or you want to kill somebody else. But yeah, South of the Deep.
I lost my signal. I can't stop the killer now.
I wish I'd caught the entire movie. Because I caught the last 10 minutes of it.
A serial killer that kills your Wi-Fi signal.
See, I kind of wish that, from what I heard about Baby Frankenstein, I kind of wish that hadn't been running the same time as, catching the last couple of minutes of that. I wish it hadn't been running the same time as Night of the Return of the Scarecrow. Because while I enjoyed Return of the Scarecrow, it would have been nice to have been able to catch both films. But then again, you gotta just kind of flip a coin. So many of these movies are things you don't hear about. One of the viewing rooms at least had a real problem of people had not sent in the final friggin' films. They hadn't sent in it was so bizarre to see that. It was they hadn't sent in the discs, so they weren't able to show them at the film festival. It's like half the film festival in room 2 was missing. It's like, oops. Sorry, guys. I'll never know if you sucked or if you were a genius.
Huh.
But that's the thing.
Oh, sorry.
But that's the crazy part. But that's the thing. Is like so many of these so many conventions don't do an honest to god film festival for fan films or whatever. Anime conventions at least will do anime showings, and often, like nowadays, you can actually get a lot of cooperation from the Japanese, where they will send, hey, here's a new production, we're gonna trust you with the American premiere of it, as we're getting it licensed at this convention X. But sci-fi conventions, for the most part, don't indulge in this. At least in my area, too many of the sci-fi conventions are lit sci-fi. The most you can hope for maybe is a book reading of some boring niche author that you don't care about anyways, who has a really uninteresting tale.
That's also the cultures of both are quite different. One's more literature centric, and the other one is definitely more visual.
Yeah, well, with things like
even
the Hugo Awards, for decades it was only a book award, and they were kind of forced to start acknowledging that science fiction existed in other forms of media, including long form film, short film, television, and like animation and stuff, and graphic novels. They have a graphic novel part of the award. They've had a graphic novel part of the award for several years because Neil Gaiman had written an excellent work that kind of forced its way into the awards, and it was the kind of the same thing that happened with Beauty and the Beast in the Oscars. Was this thing was so well done and so popular that it's like, well, we can't dare have this shit happen again, so we better have a separate subgenre so we can keep it in that nice little ghetto where we're gonna have our huffing our own farts movies. Literary films are going to be the big thing. I'm surprised they didn't add a separate best science fiction or best fantasy film after Lord of the Rings dominated that one year, because it was not just technical awards. Oh, we could give them some technical awards, but it was going for really just serious acting, serious directing, serious writing, because it was just so well done. Peter Jackson and company had just done such a damn good job and put New Zealand on the map.
They did. Yeah, they did. To this point.
I was almost surprised that they didn't try to find a way to make sure that we can't have another genre film doing that. We better have another. Oh man, the only thing's better winning better be like boring crap like Howard's End or whatever. Merchant Ivory film kind of shit. But you don't see those viewing rooms in other genre conventions. You don't see that you hardly ever see a fan fiction kind of viewing block at a superhero convention or a comic book convention. And that's because, well, there's also a bizarre dividing line where a lot of people in cosplay tend to get offended because, oh, this convention says they don't want us cosplayers there. Well, we're big. No, you're not. You don't understand. This toy convention, or this particular one, they're about the high roller purchasers of the collectibles. So you're kind of like in the way. But we do need some that are like, hey, let's do a comic book fan film festival thing or some shit. Let's start doing stuff like that. You're such an anime fan. Let's get you to actually put some production into your when you're goofing around imitating Dragon Ball Z fights with your buddies live action, and get you to actually let's see if you can actually make a ninja movie, martial arts film on your free time, because we don't have that. We don't have, even though we've got like plenty of YouTubers making like unserious things, but like, hey, what if you actually took yourself seriously and try to make a solid go at this?
Because serious is
difficult. That would be a great way to fill up a few hours of programming. quite a few. You could even do like an entire weekend in a separate room if you've got enough material going. But it's the horror films, and even though like something like Telios was technically was a sci-fi film. In fact, the woman who was running the projector in that room was like, I don't think they should have done that because that was a science fiction film. Hey, somebody gets an axe in the back of the head at one point. That's horror. Boom. There you go. As I'm defending this film. But also, it's like science. I know that if I went to Penguicon, or if I went to Confusion or Conclave, Rotten Peace, I wouldn't be seeing a room where they were having this happen. They just don't think that way. And they really do need to. Because it's a really great way. It's a really great extra. Also, not that Motor City Nightmares doesn't have their own faults. They're so often obsessed with what they're going to get. They added a new room just for. They finally added another room, rented another room in the hotel but that's for the. That was for the photo opportunities. Where you're going to go pay $60 to have your photo taken personally with Malcolm McDowell or Sid Haig or any number of scream queens. One of the women from Stripes was there, and the classic 80s movie Stripes, and I'm kind of regretting that I didn't. It would have been all night to dig through but the DVD collections to find our copy of Stripes to have her sign, unfortunately. And I was trying to conserve money because I was trying to go easy on the spending.
I mean, you still saw her, dude.
Yeah, still bumping into a lot of people, and therefore for me, it's so much more about getting my butt over to the film festival. For me, that convention is so much more about the film festival than anything else. That's what attracts
absolutely.
Me to it. And like I said, like I can watch a dozen short films in a weekend. Like last year, there was some really strong stuff going. Last year I was talking to a woman from Scotland who had a short film. This year I was talking to a British guy who was in one of the that Charismata feature length film that had been going through all the New York Film Festival kind of circuit. And that was kind of funny because that was like the last film showing in America of this film, and I was thinking like, this could probably get remade solidly enough. If a real distributor pick it up, you can go right onto Netflix or Hulu or whatnot, any number of direct distribution. If you want to do a theater, it was good, but it was just not good enough where you'd want to, if somebody optioned this damn thing for theatrical release, they'd probably want to go back and reshoot a number of scenes, maybe, and like I was saying, the maybe redo a bit of the ending. It was kind of funny. Return of the Scarecrow actually had a post-credit scene too, post-credit stuff, and a really funny. It was like I didn't even realize until I walked back in. Somebody said, "Oh, there's a post-credit scene," and I walked back in, and I'm noticing that their ending theme song was a parody of Whiskey in the Jar. So I was like, you even did a song parody for your ending theme. It's very goofy. It was very goofy, but goofy in the right way, because you got this group of teenagers like in the woods, and yeah, of course there's gonna be this reanimated supernatural. Okay, first of all, when they're doing a flashback story of how the Scarecrow haunting creature came to be, it's a diorama with like cutouts, puppet animation for the flashback. So it's like very vivid and creative. We're not going to do like a whole bunch of, we're not going to screw up a bunch of it's like they knew they didn't have the budget to do like anything elaborate with costuming and whatnot. So what they did do was, but they worked with like it did, and it really became funny and interesting the way they did it, as this bizarre little puppet characters being animated, bouncing around on popsicle sticks, kind of thing, with blood and mayhem and fire all over the place as this guy's relating this horror story that itself is kind of cliche, but it was done so entertainingly that you're like, I'm into this. And that's kind of, they managed to carry the entire film in just doing neat little things with what they could. I can post a trailer for that movie. And that was the world premiere of that film, was at Motor City Night. The world premiere of Return of the Scarecrow at Motor City Nightmares. I ended up buying a bumper sticker to support them, and I was very happy with what I was seeing there. I also purchased a role play. Oh, another one of my purchases besides the shirt that's coming in the mail was a role-playing game named Purgatory House. For $20, hardcover, and it's a very stripped down, quick generation, quick to get in. It's designed for one-off play settings instead of campaign-style play as well, which is interesting. You deal from a deck of cards. At a table, you deal from a deck of cards the rooms of this haunted house. So kind of, it's a randomly generated dungeon of obstacles in each room, of either monsters or obstacles or traps in a variety of rooms. And to that effect, they there's very interesting ideas in the book, and a very interesting, really quick way to play it. And it is like the perfect game for getting people to have just a little bit of beer and pretzels fun at conventions.
Well, that's always a good thing to have that fun at the conventions, my dude.
And which wraps me back to the point I was going to make. Of all the things that they have or don't have at Motor City Nightmares, and given the amount of horror things in this genre, they don't have a dedicated game room at the same hotel as Furry Connection. Motor City FurCon. They don't have a game room, and there's so many horror themed games that they could probably do pretty well if they hadn't.
So why do you think they don't do that?
I think that it's a really small convention, honestly. It's just the same handful of staffers that all know this one lady who runs the show, and I'm not sure if they had their staff. You think they're just out of touch? They just don't know what the modern con goers like to do these days? No, I think it's a question of how much money could you get for, how much would people be willing to jump in there? Would that justify room usage? Would room usage justify room rental? Versus how well do the crowd go for this? And do you have the staffers to run a tabletop room? But the thing is like, okay, so at least one person, two people there had tabletop games. And if you had allowed, and they could have done those a bit better if by providing a tabletop room, you'd given those vendors also the chance to run game demos.
Right. I could see something like that working. I mean, you could have it like a certain theme and everything like that per whatever. I mean, I know in my city, they have this really awesome retro game convention where they'll have certain themes of each little sector of the convention. So, like, if you wanted to go play like old Sega Genesis games, there'd be an entire section dedicated to that. There'd be different sections of like you want to play like a bunch of PlayStation 1, Dreamcast. They always had something like that for the con, and just be cool to have something like that. Then, if you're thinking about what you're thinking about,
well, what I'm thinking of is not video game rooms. Although, yeah, if you do a video game room with all horror games, that can be fun too.
Like, you gotta be careful with that, though.
You string up 8 TVs or Xboxes, and you can run Left 4 Dead all weekend, and people will just jump on that. Pick up a play.
Oh yeah. Hey, I'll be right back, man.
Okay. I was going to mention the other end of that is I finally, not only was I reading through this role-playing game, Purgatory House is the name of that, the one I picked up, $22. Can't remember any of the information. I'm not going to dig up. I'm not going to root around in my bag for it. But then I was also reading Wild Skies, which was a successful Kickstarter project from Brad Nate and Michael Orr. I picked a copy up of that just to look at it because it's anthropomorphic character animals role-playing game by Brandon Ayton and Michael Orr, who had also done some stuff for Palladium Books. That's where I picked it up, the Palladium Books open house. And oof. This thing is this book was, there's a lot of really cheesy stuff in there. And if you've seen the raw edition versus the final version of the printed edition of Rift Sovietsky by Brandon Ayton and Sabeda, because Sabeda goes in and edits the hell out of a lot of these books. You can kind of see the problems with Brandon and Orr there. That Kevin will do editing and correcting, and the big problem with Wild Skies is this is another book where it's another thing that I want to review. I gotta do a review of this thing just to point out my beefs with it in video format. What most farts in the live chat with, if I had $1 for every existential crisis I had, would it even matter? That's a good question. But what I was gonna get at was for Wild Skies, it's 2 writers, no editor. So there's I found one of the Beyond the Politics of the Writers and the Constant Communist Apologia, Marcus Apologia, was things like, okay, there's an entire column of explaining what a machine gun is as they're talking about technological advancement. But an entire column to explain what a machine gun is when pretty much everybody who's going to pick up this damn game knows what the hell is going on, or just wants to get to. It's like just a column of writing that keeps you from getting right into the play. And whereas Purgatory House is 100 pages, Wild Skies is 250. And I bet you I could trim that son of a bitch down to at least 200 and have it all killer, no filler. Just Brandon or those guys that love there's like a full page timeline, at least one in this book, and that's a big problem that Sabeda always finds with another book that had that frickin' problem was, I think, the Fleets of the Three Galaxies, or for Phase World, or was it Thundercloud Galaxy or something like that? It was one of the galaxies. It was one of the book supplements, recent supplements for Phase World, and there was just a frickin' lengthy galactic timeline of. This is no player, no GM wants to read that damn shit. It gets in the way of your goddamn game. And in fact, but there are like creative places to fit that shit in, where it'll also not interrupt the flow of the read of the game book, but it'll also be on hand as to where it would be relevant, like in a section of the machine guns and stuff, or whatever, the guns that you're playing with. If you're discussing combat and rate of fire, then you might have a spot where, yeah, this will be relevant. But where it was just not relevant data. It was not. And it was like a full goddamn column. And when you see that, it's like there was so much more interesting actual development of the game itself, of the game world, other than shit that should be common knowledge. Like they don't go in a fantasy RPG setting and explain exactly what the fuck a sword or a knife is, or give you a paragraph on the history of the development of the sword or the knife. You know, you just got that section of swords and knives, and here's your weapons you can buy, and here's the damage. Boom, you're ready to go. But so much of this book, Wild Skies, this is the book that is driving so many gamers. Just the style of writing in there is driving gamers back to playing first edition. Let's just make a procedurally a random table, procedurally generated dungeon, and just fucking go in there from the get-go. And because there's all this shit about, like, here's your character, and it's an important thing to think about their backstory, and it's not really. As another person in a recent blog post put out, the important part about the closer you go back to first edition, one of the great things about first edition is you don't have to spend an hour rolling up your characters or determining your character's elaborate character motivation and backstory and stuff, because you had emergent narrative. It was the things that you're doing are gradually teasing out the actual creating the character as you play the character, instead of going and having this backlog of information that nobody needs and nobody's going to care about except for maybe the player, and is going to make that player eschew the kind of role-playing where they might get killed. It's like you're building a character that can only be railroaded because you don't want to risk it, because the player is going to naturally not want to see that character, toasted by a trap in the first room of the dungeon and stuff in a comedic fashion. Because, oh my gosh, I spent all my time developing my perks and my quirks and choosing up all these things and my alignment and the moral compass and stuff, and that is a big problem. It just slows down gameplay, or kills your ability to even start the game. So once again, it seems like there's and I'm not sure if that's a bad habit that Brandon picked up from Palladium books, because character generation kind of goes really slowly depending on, until the MOS packages came out, the MOS system, until that came out, and you can at least do a lot of quicker rolling up of your your soldier types. You could at least have it'd take forever for you to roll up most character types, because there's so much fiddly details that you're trying to pick. You're trying to get all these the skill shopping, the item shopping, etc. The longest and most elaborate, I think, well, in Palladium's pre-furry role-playing game after the bomb, the Bio-E system. Anytime you see the Bio-E system, you know it's going to be like an hour to generate a goddamn character, at least, because there's so much little fiddly details and item shopping and development shopping to do. with the character generation. You're almost guaranteed to not be able to get into the game itself quickly. And now I think I'm gonna talk to a guy that was like, oh, I wanted, you know, talk about what he wanted to do with orcs and stuff like that. Because I also see people who are arguing for the value of a humanocentric campaign. It's like, just play fucking humans and get to throwing dice, bitch. All this other stuff, and also all this other stuff, you're weighing down your ability of the GM to make the, and the players to find out things and make their own calls in the game and make the game their own. The more information you put in these things, especially if it's not interesting. Or apologetic. This is me almost, it's almost 10 o'clock, so it's almost time for me to give up the stream, guys. As you see, well, like, okay, I got that one section done, great. That was like the last major detailing that fiddly bits detailing that I had to go into for this. Kurosawa Alexander wants this by Friday. Hopefully I can get that to him. Yeah, I'll get this to him by Friday. Because I've got a whole bunch of other projects I want to get it to work on, because I'm going to be at this cool Halfway to Halloween on the 11th on the Tangent Galleries, a gallery showing a Halloween burlesque spooktacular, and also, you know, and it turns out I'm also going to be able to have a table there, so yay me, I'm going to just try to sell all of the teams. I want to get this nice breaking glass, get this guy going through safety glass in an entertaining fashion. I want to make this look like it's glass, and so for that I gotta do the glass as we'll have to do this glass here as a separate layer, because way too much ability to F up every other. I got, of course, towards the end of the month, we got Motor City Motor City Midwest Haunters at the end of the month. And between that, there's a poor man's prop build that I want to get in on. We're going to build a corpse puller. It is a prop that involves a pair of skeletons, and one is pulling the other by the arms out of a grave to like revive. It's gonna be an expensive two-part build. The first part is gonna be in mid-May, and I'm just bizarrely turning Halloween into a thing. I know, more and more. As time goes on, I wish I started doing this years ago, honestly. In general, like life news, just managed to pay off my credit cards too. But hey, you know what? Hey, this is the end of me. It's going on 9:59. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me. Thank you if you guys signed in and watched this later. So here is my review. And so you got kind of like my thoughts on the recent of the day, recent conventions that I've been to, social life stuff, what there isn't. And you have the, and you're gonna be able to see where you're gonna be able to find me next. And there's the sound bell. And once again, I'm Ben Rodriguez, Bar1 Scorpio, B-A-R, the number 1, Scorpio, S-E-O-R-P-I-O, on Twitter, on YouTube, of course, which is where you're watching me right now, DeviantArt, Fur Affinity, and Hentai-Foundry. All those 3 gallery sites you're going to find different artwork. Live Journal for old blogs, Steam It for new blogs, Patreon for exclusives, for the occasional exclusives, and good night.